Yo guys, what's going on? It's Daily Tactics here, and today we're going to be doing another Star Wars news video. I've been really hyped about some gaming news coming up, especially with E3 just happening. For those of you who don't know, E3 is a big gaming convention where all the big companies go ahead and show off their upcoming products that they're planning on releasing, or they show off, beta builds and things like that, whatever they can show off to build hype for whatever game they're trying to sell. Now this, like I said, has generated a ton of buzz. Some of the games I'm most interested in are Battlefield 2042, as well as Breath of the Wild 2. However, if you are watching E3, particularly EA's E3 convention, you will notice a particular lack of a certain franchise that we love so dearly here on this channel. That's right, Star Wars was particularly absent during the entirety of E3. Now, this absence of Star Wars from E3 has been called out by many members of the community. I've seen Eckhart's Ladder talking about it, I've seen Star Wars HQ talking about it, I've seen a load of people talking about it, and I have to say, they're all in the right here, being mad at EA, being mad at Disney, being mad at Star Wars for not showing anything at E3. I think what EA is doing with Star Wars and to the Star Wars fans is completely unacceptable. I tweeted out my thoughts on this yesterday, but when you take on an IP, you take on the responsibility of having those fans of that IP, this time being Star Wars, for example. Instead of being, on top of things, letting fans know what's happening with the IP, letting fans know what they can, anticipate coming forward, letting fans know that, hey, we're actually working on things. They've been super inconsistent with their game drops, and they're just neglecting the IP overall. I mean, if you think back on the past few years while EA has had the Star Wars IP, yes, we've gotten some great games, and those were fantastic. However, we've only gotten like one game every 2 or 3 years. And sometimes the games are just half-baked. The original Star Wars EA Battlefront, in my opinion, is one of the worst Star Wars games ever to release. It's full of hackers, it was buggy, it was considerably lacking content. Like, there was barely anything to do in that game after 10 hours. Star Wars Battlefront 2 EA version, after being released, was an absolute disaster, completely scummy. You guys all remember that complete fiasco that happened with Star Wars Battlefront 2. Luckily, they kept on it and actually fixed it, but that took the better part of 3 or 4 years to get Battlefront 2 to the level that it is right now, and now once they've gotten it to that level, they've dropped development of it. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order was one of the few actual home runs that EA has hit. I mean, just widely acclaimed across the board, a fantastic game that has very little wrong with it. Then Star Wars Squadrons came out, which also a pretty good game, but it's not for everyone. It's a game that you would think you would release in a year when you're also releasing a mainline Star Wars game that's more widely appreciated by everyone. Star Wars Squadrons has a very niche audience to it. While it's fun for a little bit, if you're not super into flight simulator games or fighting games or dogfighting games, etc., you're going to be bored of it within a couple of hours like I was. I mean, that's the thing. They release a great game that's super niche, or they release a fantastic game, but it took them 4 or 5 years to do it. EA has been consistently terrible with their drops of Star Wars, and I wouldn't even mind that. I am okay with, companies taking a long time to make games. I don't mind it as long as the game, in the end, is actually good and fantastic, like they did with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Like Miyamoto famously said, a delayed game is eventually good, but a bad game is bad forever. However, not only are we getting absolutely no Star Wars games, we're also being mistreated by EA. There's been no Star Wars news coming from them. E3 would be the perfect time to let fans know what to anticipate, to get fans hyped, to get fans excited. I mean, you see all of these other IPs like, Battlefield, Halo, etc., getting trailers, getting new information, getting, actual content served to them on a plate. They're eaten. Us Star Wars fans aren't even eating. We're not even getting a taste test. We're not even getting an appetizer. There's no appy on our table. What we have is not even so much of a mention of Star Wars at E3. And not so much of a mention of any Star Wars content coming soon beyond games that have been slightly confirmed / delayed 10 times. I mean, you look at the new Lego Star Wars game, which I'm sure will come out, but this would be a perfect time to release some news about that game. I mean, come on. It's been delayed from 2020 to 2021. It is now June of 2021. If they're not releasing a full-on trailer or some gameplay of that game, I have high suspicions and doubts that it's not coming out this year. We're halfway through the year and they're not even willing to give us a morsel of what it's going to be like. That's weird, man. That's weird. Not to mention Star Wars Hunters, which was promised at the Nintendo Direct. What we got originally for Star Wars Hunters was a weird little trailer that looked like a mobile game with in-app purchases in it. Despite this, it's still some sort of a Star Wars game that we potentially might be getting. However, everyone was anticipating getting some sort of an actual trailer for Star Wars Hunters at E3. Instead, we got nothing. We got nada, zip, zilch. That game is also posed to release in 2021, and unlike LEGO Star Wars, we know even less about it. You know, at least LEGO Star Wars, we've got some images, we've got an idea of what it's going to be like, what it's going to look like. Star Wars Hunters, we've got absolutely nothing. So how are they going to, produce a product in the next 6 months that, is actually functioning and good when they can't even release what they've got right now for it? They can't even show us gameplay of it, they can't show us a trailer, anything like that. They're not confident enough to at this point. And it truly has to be that reason. E3 is the time to get fans hyped about games, to get pre-orders in, to get the ball rolling, essentially, on everything. Companies want to show off what they have at E3. Literally, terrible games have been given great trailers and released at E3, and thusly, they have an audience right off the bat. Even though the game is terrible, they're already going to have so many people playing it. Look at Cyberpunk 2077. If it wasn't for all the conventions that they went to and showed off gameplay for it, that game would have flopped. I mean, day one. They built up so much hype that it didn't matter that the game was terrible at launch because so many people were playing it anyway. So it really makes no sense as to why there's nothing going on with Star Wars at E3, unless, of course, there's just nothing to show. They don't have any good products to show, so therefore they don't want to show anything. I'm sure there will be more Star Wars games in the future. I mean, it's too big of a franchise to just completely neglect. But what we're getting right now is so inconsistent, so misinformed towards the public. It's a real crying shame. Not to mention, EA is still producing these games, which really, really disappoints me. I mean, people forget how scummy EA is. Not even just with Star Wars. Look at the other games that they release, like FIFA and things like that. They have microtransactions coming out the wazoo. They are not consumer friendly. The only time people like EA is when a hot trailer drops. People are all hyped about Battlefield 2042 because of how good it looks. People forget that the company running it is as scummy as they come. People are so quick to flip sides on EA once something bad happens, but then they forget about it right away. EA has some of the best public management that I have ever seen of a company because they can make people forget about how awful of a company they truly are, which is, obviously a gift for EA that they can actually accomplish that, but it's really bad for us consumers because we've just got hype building towards EA when, in fact, they don't have our best interests in mind. So right now, the Star Wars community is all pissed at EA again. They're all mad at EA for not giving us even a morsel of what we want, or, acknowledging that Star Wars exists at all. But the second Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2 trailer comes out in 3 years, people will forget all about how scummy EA is. That's the problem, is you have to hold these companies accountable in both the good times and the bad times. Because at its heart, EA will always be bad. They've yet to prove to me that they are ever not about money. We always talked about how they just ignore single-player games, and they still do because they're not as profitable as multiplayer games, but then everyone stops talking about that when Jedi Fallen Order drops. Well, I don't see EA making any plans to make more single-player games except for Jedi Fallen Order 2, and that's because Jedi Fallen Order did so well financially for them that they can. The second they get a flop of a single-player game, they're probably done forever. So we really need to just hold these companies accountable at all times for what they've done, and make sure they're always on the straight and narrow, because the second you give them the tiniest amount of good graces and things like that, they're gonna use that and take advantage of that and try and screw over the consumer once more. So EA, you really gotta let us know what's happening. I mean, this is really pathetic that we've gone through an entire E3 without even the mention of Star Wars, and with delayed games being delayed further, and games that are just so unknown right now, not getting a planned release date and not even getting a trailer, I'm really skeptical as to what is actually being worked on for Star Wars. I'm hoping Battlefront 3 is coming out in the next 2 years or something like that. I'm hoping for Jedi Fallen Order 2 in the next 2 or 3 years, but at this point, it's just so much radio silence, we just don't know, you know? And it's fine if games take time. You know, I'd rather these games take longer and we get a really great product at the end, but again, they need to be more, forthright in what they're actually doing and let the fans know what's going on and, what they're working on, things like that. That's the point of E3. A fan base doesn't just get trust. You have to earn that trust. And right now they have not earned it at all because they're not being transparent in the slightest. So guys, that's going to be about it for today's video. I just wanted to talk about this. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button if you did enjoy, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below your own thoughts and opinions on what EA is doing with Star Wars and all that. Peace. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. Be sure to click that subscribe button for more content, and hit the notification bell if you'd like to be alerted to whenever I live stream or upload. Thanks so much.